We thought we knew something. We thought we were smart people, and this show is very humbling in that way.
This is blowing our minds.
The Great Muslim American Road Trip, a 3-part PBS series.
We're the hosts of this show, ostensibly, but really we're the students of this show, and we're the students of the people who took us in, who gave us tours, who schooled us.
Talking to Sebastian Robbins, Mona Haydar in Ann Arbor, husband and wife, Muslims who've managed to grab some quality time in an SUV, their young kids back home with their grandmother. How'd you find yourself rolling down the road from Chicago to California? How did you get involved with all of this?
Well, you know, it was really this opportunity to reconnect as a couple after a long period of COVID, almost 2 years of being home. We have 2 small boys. Between remote learning and homeschooling and the business of our lives, it started off as this idea to just take this trip through a part of America we didn't really know anything about. That's what we thought we were getting into.
The American story is the Muslim story.
You start in Chicago, but here you are in Ann Arbor, and I think there's a history of Flint in all of this too. Couldn't you fit some more of Michigan into your show?
I feel like we would have loved to, but I really believe that Michigan deserves its own entire show. You know, we've been talking about the idea of doing an entire Michigan-based road trip show and how fun that would be. I mean, that's its own 3-part series all by itself.
Haydar and Robbins first met at a New Mexico retreat where this trip, it's another stop along the way. They make an interesting couple for the people they meet.
And when I met Sebastian, he just became a dear friend.
You know, she was not looking to have me become Muslim, and I wasn't looking to have her teach me, but just by virtue of our friendship, it was like the door opened. I think it was the way you practiced, the way you prayed, and the way you held your faith, like, beautifully, but it was sort of this invitation.
We got to go to places that are not your typical destinations. And I think because of that, people were really warm and welcoming and excited to share their stories because they don't get a lot of those kinds of visits.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, I'm Sonata Gerbig, and you are?
Mona.
Ona?
Sebastian.
We ate some of the best food in our lives in St. Louis, and we spent a day at the Gerbig restaurant with a beautiful family that had welcomed in refugees after the Bosnian War in the early 1990s and were pillars of their community.
At our house, there was 50 people at any given time, any day, just everywhere.
That was just one day, you know, out of 3 weeks of those kinds of encounters.
If you're doing this.
Route 66 takes them through Oklahoma, leading them to Tulsa jazz man Leon Rollerson.
I've had a lot of Muslim musicians in my band. A lot of people think that, well, Muslims don't like music. Well, that's far from the truth.
I think I always had a sense that Muslims were very active within the arts community. I was so blessed to grow up in Flint, Michigan, where there was a vibrant artist community. So the legacy of that is still very strong in a place like Flint.
Flint, Mona Haydar's hometown. She's a spoken word artist, a poet, hip-hop lyricist, Michigan's own, known far and wide. In Tulsa, Haydar finds her connection as an artist to jazz musicians. It's a process, the struggle they have in common. Through Rollerson, she learns the long list of Muslim jazz players, names like Blakey, Coltrane, Lateef.
Love chant, love chant.
You know, jazz and jazz music and the influence of Muslims on jazz and jazz music, they came from deeply spiritual places. It was incredible to hear it straight from the mouth of a jazz musician.
It takes you into another dimension.
Yes.
Another stop along the way, not far from where the couple first met in New Mexico, where a Muslim came through these lands in the 1500s.
Estevanico is the one that almost created America.
Estevanico from North Africa, enslaved by the Spanish, he'd become a North American explorer. Archaeologist Kenny Boacati's keeping his story alive.
Literally opening those gateways for the rest of the world to now filter into what is now North America.
This is amazing history that very few of us have heard about. One of the first people to come in was this enslaved African Muslim.
What would you like people to get from all this? What's the ultimate message here from you two?
I hope people come away from the show being able to laugh a little bit and also learning the way that we learned, you know, by opening our hearts to different people's stories.
Someone said recently, you know, you're a white guy and Mona's Syrian American, and what's it like being married, and do a lot of cultural differences come up in your marriage? And I said, look, every marriage is a connection between two people who are different.
You can just say your dream. Just say your dream.
No, I don't want to. I'm going to say something else first.
Tell me your
I think
dream.
traveling is the sort of revelatory experience.
So that's sort of the micro experience that Mona and I portray as hosts. I don't want the show to be about us. It's really about the people we meet. Every person we met somehow used their faith and used their life to want to do good on this planet.